What's up, guys? Today I'm bringing you the team that got me to rank 10 last season and has had me sitting between low leaderboards and top 150 so far in this Master Premier League. That team is Lead, Mudslap Rhyperior, Sacrificial Swap Togekiss, and Closer Shadow Gardevoir. I did release a gameplay video last season when I hit rank 10, but it was a short one-set gameplay video with no Metagross in it. That's completely unrepresentative of Master Premier League. It's Metagross League, pretty much. So I decided to make a complete matchup guide. I've had people ask how to play certain matchups, how to properly play this team. Hopefully this video will be able to answer all of those questions and maybe more. And without further ado, let's take a look at some lead and swap matchups. This video will be going through easier to harder matchups in that order. And we're going to start off with Magnezone lead, which is by far the easiest lead to deal with. I don't think I've ever lost to a Magnezone lead, or if I have, it's been so long ago I don't remember. But they swap into the Snorlax safe swap. So in this case, my goal is to get as much damage onto Snorlax as possible, and I want to swap before they get to a superpower or an earthquake. Unfortunately, they shield the surf. I would prefer them to not shield the surf and kind of just take a little bit of extra damage. I barely get charge moves off with this team anyways. As you can see, I shield the first body slam because I know I'll need to shield at least one body slam. This is because I would like to shield a body slam before I get to ancient power, just in case I do get the boost. So as you can see, this is what normally happens. I don't get the boost, but they let the ancient power through, and I only have to spend one shield to beat the Snorlax. When there's a Magnezone lead, the most important thing you want to do is retain switch advantage. You want that Rhyperior against that Magnezone at all costs. This Magnezone is going to be able to farm down my Togekiss. He threw a lot of sparks at Rhyperior too, so he's a couple mirror shots banked up. But Rhyperior can take 3 mirror shots without having to do much, and out comes Gyarados. So this is the big change between last season and this season, is that Gyarados are generally running Aqua Tail now instead of Hydro Pump. And this is a blessing and a curse. You can tank an Aqua Tail easily on Gardevoir and Togekiss, but it also allows them to be more spammy, and you will generally have to use a shield. But the benefit is in the Togekiss matchup, you don't really have to be worried about Hydro Pump anymore, unless they charge all the way up, which generally I've not seen Gyarados doing much of. Although I have seen a couple Hydro Pump Gyarados. Either way, Magnezone comes back in, and it did not matter if they were able to take down Gardevoir there. Rhyperior has that Magnezone Mudslap away. So the next matchup we're going to see is a Smackdown Rhyperior matchup. So this is, I would say, the only other really favorable matchup that I ran into for Mudslap Rhyperior. So what's going to happen here is I like to damage them a little bit and throw out a Surf. They're going to throw out a Surf as well, probably. Or if they don't have Surf, they might have Superpower instead. That's even better. And we're essentially going to trade shields. But I'm going to be doing a lot more damage, and I've never actually had a Smackdown Rhyperior stay in against Mudslap Rhyperior. So they swap into Dragonite. If they swap into a Dragonite or a fighter, you immediately swap in Shadow Gardevoir, because Shadow Gardevoir can take the Dragonite down before a Hurricane comes up, which is huge. And just in general, Togekiss has better matchups, for example, versus Snorlax, that you might need in the end game. So taking down their big threat with Shadow Gardevoir early is fine. So as you can see, they have to blow the Surf to take down my Shadow Gardevoir. So I have no problem bringing my Rhyperior to finish him off. And out comes Swampert. Swampert is very annoying for this team as well, especially if it's carrying Sludge Wave. So I know that with one shield, I don't guarantee to win Togekiss. So I'm going to just try and get as much damage off with my Rhyperior as I can. I'm not going to shield anything. Just let that Rhyperior go down to the Swampert, tank that Hydro Cannon damage. But now Togekiss comes out, and I have the shield advantage and health advantage, and Swampert can't do anything, even if it's Sludge Wave there. So those are what I would say are the two favorable matchups where they will reliably swap out of their lead, and you can kind of just follow them up and beat them. The next most favorable matchup is Metagross, and this is more of a 50-50 matchup here. So Metagross, they can play this a number of ways. In this case, they choose to stay in. We're going to go over an example where they stay in and an example where they switch. So they stay in, and I'll throw the Surf there. If I get the shield, that's fine. If I don't get the shield, that means I just have to spend one less shield. And that's all that I really want to do. I want to be saving shields for the rest of my team. So they bring in Garchomp, and I go into Togekiss, and they follow up with their own Togekiss, which is perfectly fine for me. So with the Metagross scenario, if, for example, if they hadn't, or if they had blocked the Surf, I would have had to spend 2 shields, which is annoying, but dealable with. But if they eat a Surf, you only have to spend 1 shield. That means you get to save 1 shield, for example, for your... In this case, it actually probably is very important. I get to save that shield for my Shadow Gardevoir. So I go in with the Shadow Gardevoir, finish off the Togekiss. I know they have a Garchomp left. And with 1 shield, you can take down the Garchomp regardless. I don't know if I shield this, and I eat the Earthquake, which is not good. But Rhyperior, Mudslap does quite a bit of damage, and I'm going to be able to hopefully finish him off before I get finished off here. This was actually the first Earthquake Garchomp I've ever seen that I started shielding my Gardevoir if they started charging up that much. Before that, it was just Sand Tombs, and generally you just want to shield the second Sand Tomb because it'll do more damage. That's why I didn't shield there. But that was obviously a mistake. And then here we have another Metagross lead, and we're going to see that in this case they do swap out, and they swap out to Conkledurr. So I've actually seen quite a few Conkledurrs at the leaderboard levels. You play Conkledurr and Machamp swap-ins the same way. They're pretty much the same Pokemon for these cases. You can eat a Stone Edge or a Rock Slide. So you take them out without using a shield, and you bait their Metagross back in. And once the Metagross is baited back in now, you have your Rhyperior come back in, and you just farm that guy down. You can throw Surfs to try and either bait shields out, which is what I do here, or they'll eat the Surf and you have to spend 1 less shield. Both are perfectly fine options. They spend the shield, so I know I'm going to have to spend my second shield on Rhyperior, or I might not. If I get low enough, or if their Metagross gets low enough before they throw the next Meteor Mash, I can let the Rhyperior go down and finish it off with a Togekiss. And looks to be the right choice as they come in with the Dragonite. And if they do get to a Hurricane, which they don't, they should get to a Hurricane. And if they do, then Togekiss can actually survive 1 Hurricane, but with very low health, and that might not have been enough health to finish off the Metagross. So saving that shield just guarantees that you can avoid that Hurricane damage and then finish farming down the Metagross. So I would say only let your Rhyperior down in Meteor Mash if the Metagross is low enough to be farmed down by one of your fairies. So Snorlax lead, this is not what I would say is a favorable lead. It's an even lead, I would say, but you really don't want your Rhyperior taking too much damage from like, you don't want to tank a single superpower from Snorlax, otherwise you can't beat Metagross when it comes out. So as expected, we swap the Togekiss out, bait the Metagross out, and this time the Metagross doesn't choose to farm down, or chooses to farm down and actually waste a shield on the Flamethrower instead. So this can be hard to play versus, because now they have 2 Meteor Mashes stored up, and you will have to blow both shields on the Rhyperior. But you have to hope that your Rhyperior and Gardevoir can take care of the next 2 Pokemon, which is a Snorlax plus hopefully a Dragonite, since they do have a Metagross. And they swap into the Snorlax. This is very good because then they kind of have locked themselves in, and they blow a superpower. And potentially another superpower here to try and finish off the Rhyperior. And it does, but now they're double debuffed. And Lick, while normally would destroy the Shadow Gardevoir, can't really do too much. And Shadow Gardevoir is going to go for the sweep here. Hopefully they have a Dragonite, which they do. If they had a Shadow Machamp or something, that would have also been doable as well. As you can see, they could have gotten to an Outrage, which might KO, but they only got to a Dragon Claw, which does not do very much damage. It's double resisted, and that's how that matchup gets finished off. So Dragonite in the back is something that is very favorable to this. As long as you're safe swapping Togekiss, you'll generally find your Gardevoir matched up against it. The next matchup we'll see is a Togekiss lead. So Togekiss lead I handle a bit differently than other leads. You see here, I throw 2 Mud Slaps and then swap every time. I throw 2 Mud Slaps because it gives them time to maybe swap if they think it's a Smackdown Rhyperior, and 2 Mud Slaps worth of damage is generally enough for my Togekiss to win back switch advantage or tie their Togekiss, which is what might happen here, but they throw their energy right at the end, so I'm just going to let my Togekiss go and farm down their opposing Togekiss with this Rhyperior. There's no charge move that really does too much damage to Rhyperior besides Dazzling Gleam, and I've never seen Togekiss run that. So they swap into their Dragonite, which is honestly really weird. I've never seen that happen, but it is very good because my switch timer isn't up. So I blow Surf to get my switch timer up. I know it's not going to do too much damage, and because I let them attack for so long, I'm not sure if they are able to charge up to a Hurricane, but it's just a Dragon Claw, so a bit of a wasted shield there, depending on what they have in the back, but they throw out the Togekiss, and they have a Garchomp. So another really favorable matchup. They throw their energy before it can possibly be an Earthquake. So you're going to see I'm going to let the Sand Tomb go. It debuffs my defense, so you want to let the first one through instead of the second one. As you can see, I'm going to shield the second one. Perhaps if I had shielded the first one instead, I might not have been able to beat this Garchomp. It would be much closer. So this is a case where I swap to Togekiss, and they don't swap out of Togekiss. In those cases, you win most of them, because that means they don't really have a better Togekiss counter or fairy counter than just their Togekiss. In this case, you're going to see I'm going to throw 2 Mudslaps again and swap, and they're going to immediately swap out into Swampert. So this is also good because that means they don't have another counter better than Swampert, but because they swapped into Swampert, I'm assuming they have Sludge Wave. I'm going to blow shields here. So if Swampert has Sludge Wave, you actually have to blow 2 shields on Togekiss to kind of maintain switch advantage and win this back. But with Togekiss as their lead, I don't really need switch advantage so far. So we'll see if I actually do shield a Sludge Wave. I do, because I know their next best Togekiss counter is probably also Togekiss. And having a full HP or a nearly full HP Togekiss versus another Togekiss is a huge boon. This Togekiss is going to come out of this matchup extremely unhealthy. And I'm assuming because they don't have anything better against Togekiss in the back, it is likely a Dragonite or a Garchomp or something like that. So no Protect Shields remaining. They're going to Aerial to Togekiss, and I'm going to go down. And I have a couple options here. I go back into Rhyperior and From down, and they swap into Garchomp as expected. This Garchomp does not have Earthquake, which is great because otherwise I would have been actually in a lot of trouble. So you can see the Sand Tomb go through. Are they going to get to another Sand Tomb? Yes. But even the second Sand Tomb is not enough to KO the Gardevoir, even in a no-shield situation. So now defense is debuffed, but I have a full Rhyperior and Gardevoir to take down the last little HP of the Togekiss. So the Togekiss leads are honestly not too bad. Generally, they're not run with a lot of other steals, or if they are, it's only with Metagross. So if you can bait that out, you can still pretty easily win those matchups. So Machamp lead, really unfavorable lead. This is where we start getting to the unfavorable for Rhyperior leads. But Machamp is also a Pokemon that gets shredded by fairies in the late game, so it's not too bad of a matchup. As you can see, I swap to Togekiss and bait out the Metagross. So when I bait out the Metagross and the Metagross throws their energy, I wait for the timer to go all the way down before bringing out the Rhyperior. This is because they're only going to get to 1 more Meteor Mash on the Rhyperior before the switch timer is back up, and that means that I do want to be swapping or stalling out the switch timer so that I can throw a Surf, and then the switch timer will be up so I can swap to my Shadow Gardevoir. So generally, Machamps and Fighters, they don't shield the Surf. And you can see Dragon Breath Gyarados in the back. Favorable matchup for Shadow Gardevoir, but you do need 1 shield to beat him. Try and shield the Crunch over the Aqua Tail, but it's not a big deal in the long run. And with both their shields up, you can see I don't want to throw my energy because that's 1 less charm I can get off. Because I know that no charge moves are going to go through, and their Machamp comes back in and is killed by the Gardevoir before it can get a charge move off. So we are safe there. But yeah, if you notice they're not using their shields, then stop using your charge moves, because what's going to happen is it's just going to remove a charm that you could be using. Okay, so Dragon Breath Gyarados lead. This is much worse for Rhyperior now that Aqua Tail is a thing, as they can start doing severe damage to Rhyperior with just a couple Dragon Breaths instead of charging all the way up to Hydro Pump. As you can see, yet another Metagross switch. This is the most common scenario if the Metagross is not a lead. So what you do want to do is let them throw their Meteor Mash and not shield it, and then wait for the charge timer again to bring your Rhyperior out. It is important that you eliminate the Metagross with your Rhyperior. Otherwise, you're going to have troubles in the late game with your Gardevoir. So once again, one Meteor Mash goes out, so you have one shield remaining, and Gyarados comes out again. I barely ever use Rock Wrecker unless shields are down, because in this case, especially, you can see they don't shield and the Surf does some damage. This is completely fine and honestly the preferred scenario, because with Surf taking up some damage, I know that the Gyarados, even if I swap really slow, is not going to get to a third charge move. And they're going to come out with a Machamp again, and Machamp is not going to have enough time to get to a Rock Slide. It's just going to be a Cross Chop, and that does almost no damage. It's 4 times resisted as well. And Shadow Gardevoir, once again, can take out 2 Pokemon as long as those 2 Pokemon don't really deal too much damage with their fast moves to her. So the next Pokemon I think is Dragonite. Dragonite is an extremely unfavorable lead for this team, but I'm going to show why throw Mud Slap first in a lot of cases. If I throw a Mud Slap here, there's a chance that people think for some reason that you're running Smackdown and they'll swap out of Dragonite. In this case, Dragonite swaps into Metagross, which is not an extremely favorable matchup for Rhyperior, but it's favorable for your team in terms of the fact that you can eliminate the biggest threat to your team. All 3 Pokemon take super effective damage from Steel. So in this case, they actually don't get to another a Meteor Mash because they swapped in to Rhyperior. Normally they'll get to 2, but I'll throw a Rock Wrecker. I know I said I usually don't, but my Rhyperior is going down anyways, and I'll swap into the Togekiss, and out comes Mamoswine. So I have 1 shield left. Mamoswine is probably going to one-shot either of these Pokemon regardless, but Shadow Gardevoir does a bit more damage, so I put out Shadow Gardevoir, so hopefully they don't get to a second Avalanche, and then Dragonite comes out, and it's all over from there. So this matchup, he probably actually would have won if he didn't swap out his Dragonite right away. Dragonite is actually a very unfavorable lead for this team, generally because it also comes with a lot of other Steel Pokemon. But if it doesn't, then it's very easy to deal with because Shadow Gardevoir or Togekiss can manhandle Dragonite at the end. In this case, you see they do have a Steel Pokemon, but it's Magnezone. I decided to show this clip just because we haven't seen a Magnezone swap in yet. But you can see I never shield Togekiss. That's not me calling a bait on Wild Charge. That's just me not shielding. It's nice in this case that I got to a Flamethrower because they actually let it through. If not, they lose a shield. That's fine too. Rhyperior has no problem taking down the Magnezone. And they come in with the Snorlax. And this is now a loaded Snorlax. They know they're coming back into Rhyperior. And I also don't really like shielding Rhyperior versus Snorlax. But in this case, they do a superpower because they're going to swap. So I shield there. This is another case where I kind of swap slow, so I'm not sure if they have Hurricane, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter. Because their Dragonite is low enough that I can farm them down with Mud Slap. So I do let it through. I probably should have safely shielded that just to be on the safe side. But this match is going to be very close. I have 2 Surfs saved up, but they also have 2 shields. So I really have to let a Body Slam through for me to win this matchup. And thankfully, they go for Body Slam first. That was the only win condition for me. If they had just spammed superpowers, I think I would have lost. But now I know that they're on the ropes and they might need to get a superpower in, so I shield. But as you can see, they go for another Body Slam. They know their only win condition now is to bait the Body Slam and get a superpower off. But instead, I'm going to get to my 3rd Surf before they get to land a superpower on me. And this matchup is going to be very close. But yeah, Dragonite lead is not a problem because of the Dragonite. It's a problem because of the Pokemon that it generally comes with. This next matchup is probably the hardest lead that I regularly face. Or not regularly, but I face once in a while. This is Empoleon. Battle Bill runs this quite a lot. None of my Pokemon deal well with Empoleon. You do super effective damage with Rhyperior, and I'm going to throw this Surf because I really just want to damage this Empoleon, but I think Battle Bill knows what I have in the back. He shields that up, and Hydro comes at the same time as Surf, so I'm going to shield that, and I'm going to swap right into Togekiss. So with Togekiss, he's going to swap out as well into his own Togekiss. This is a pretty neutral matchup. Empoleon is still a big problem. I know I'm going to lose a lot of health on whichever Pokemon I match up against it. But he lets the Ancient Power through. And I'm thinking on whether or not I need to shield this on my Togekiss. And I let it through. And our Togekisses are going to faint at the same time. So now I know he is an Empoleon. It's very tough for me to think about what I want to match up versus it. Neither of these Pokemon do well. So I swap in Gardevoir. And he actually goes for his Garchomp in the back. And he charges up quite a bit. This could be an Earthquake. But I correctly call it as a Sand Tomb. And he swaps into his Empoleon, and I swap into Rhyperior because I cannot deal with the decreased defense and taking waterfall damage. So that's how you have to play Empoleon. It took me a lot of trial and error to learn that one. I've tried like sacking the Rhyperior, immediately swapping. If you immediately swap, you can just get the Empoleon out, and it can come back at the end and kind of just clear you out. So this last battle here, this is the only battle that I'm going to show that I didn't win. I've won against comps like this in the past, but it's not very often, and I did not win while we were recording. This is the Double Steel team. So this is generally led by a Dragonite or a Garchomp, but I've seen it led by a Gyarados as well. The way you have to play this is you have to burn their shields, and you have to land a Rock Wrecker, or in the case of a Dragonite, you have to land a Rock Wrecker. In the case of Garchomp, you have to land multiple Surfs. But yeah, you can see a lot of lag here. Classic Niantic, but so I come in and I'm already being charged at by Meteor Mash. This wouldn't have changed too much anyways, but 2 Meteor Mashes come through and I know I have to be able to farm down this Metagross. So pretty much I've burned 1 shield already with a Togekiss. I know I need to burn another shield on the Dragonite and then maneuver into Rhyperior with a Rock Wrecker up. I don't even have Rock Wrecker charged right now, so I'm really hoping he just bites at this point. Because of the lag, no one really knows how many fast moves we got off. So he does shield. I go in the Gardevoir, and no shields on anyone. I'm hoping he Mirror Shots me so I can get a Shadow Ball off. But I don't quite get to the Shadow Ball in this case, and it's going to be a Wild Charge. So Rhyperior will come back in, and he's enough for a Mirror Shot. If I maneuver around this a bit better, what can end up is, you can see I'm 2 Mud Slaps away from a Rock Wrecker, and I get that Mud Slap off, but I'm going to go down to the charge move. What's happened in the games where I win is either I get to a Shadow Ball in the Magnezone, and they have to blow a shield there, or if you can maneuver around and keep the Metagross at a bit higher HP with your Togekiss, you can get a couple extra Mud Slaps off with your Rhyperior and hopefully have enough for a Rock Wrecker when the Dragonite comes in at the end. But I would say that scenario with the Double Steel, it's just 3 direct counters to your team, is maybe like a 10% win. When you kind of just have to lose those games, just like how you automatically win those Magnezone lead games. But yeah, that requires either very, very good play on your part or very poor play on your opponent's part, which you can't always bank on. But yeah, let me know if you guys like that style of video. It was more of a informative matchup-based video instead of like a gameplay video. But yeah, let me know with the likes or comments or wherever you feel. And I'll see you next time with hopefully some more either Premier League stuff or some Great League stuff when it comes back.